So hi and welcome back to part 3 of this mini guide where we're looking at placing the Battle Royale Ring on the map using the AI players. In the first part of the tutorial we looked at the maths behind this and how to work out the coordinates around a circle. In the second part we dived into the rules editor and set up an array of vector coordinates in order to prepare to place the AI players on the ground, and now in this final video we will finish that off and actually place the AI players in the correct position on the ground in order to create that Battle Royale ring that you know. If you've enjoyed this series of videos and you haven't done already, please do consider clicking the subscribe button and clicking the like button, and if you click the follow button you will get notified of when the next guides are available. There is going to be a small gap between this one and the next set of guides while I prepare them, and I am going to extend this just one final time to look at figuring out where the player is in relation to the ring and possibly extending that if you would like me to. And then I'm going to move back to some of these smaller guides because this has been quite a big undertaking. If there's anything that you'd like me to cover in future tutorials, please do let me know. I am listening all the time and taking note of what you want, and I do have some of your requests coming up soon. For now though, let's dive into this final part and get this working. So the final thing for us to do is to make sure that when the AI players spawn in, that we disable them and place them in the correct coordinates on the map to generate this ring that we have created. So we know what coordinates they're going to go at because we have index positions. We now need to place them at those coordinates. Now I'm going to add another variable, and we're going to add this variable and connect it to the player. And the reason for this variable is we are going to connect up the AI player. We're going to give the AI player a number, and the number that we give them will be the index position in the array that has the coordinates that they need to be set at. Now at the moment that might not make a lot of sense, but later on as we progress that's going to become a lot more useful. So just stay with me, and for now we're going to create a variable, and it's going to be a player variable, and we're going to call this AI number. We are going to assign that to a player. Make sure you assign this one to a player. We're going to create that and we're going to close it. So now we're going to need a way of assigning a unique value from 0 to 29 to each AI player that is deployed. So I'm going to create another variable. This one's going to be a global one, and we'll call this current AI number, global one. Click create and close that, and we're going to initialize that variable when the game mode starts, current AI number, and we're going to set that to 0, just like that. And we're going to use this to count through as players are deployed and give them an appropriate number. So the next thing is we're going to add another rule, and this one is going to be on player deployed. So we want to grab each AI player as they're deployed and assign them a number, and we're going to make sure that that only happens once at the start of the game. So we'll call this assign AI number, so on the player deployed, and we're going to need some conditions here. We need to check first of all that they are an AI player when they're deployed, because we don't want these numbers being assigned to non-AI players. And we also want to double check that we're not assigning a number once all numbers have been assigned. So there's going to be two parts to this condition. So we're going to need a condition, and we need logic, and we're going to use AND. So it's got to satisfy both of those things, hasn't it? They are an AI player and we haven't already assigned all the AI numbers. The next thing we need to do is get the player state to check if they are actually an AI player. So we need to check the state of the event player, and we need to check the state. Let's just go down here at the bottom. Player state bool is an AI soldier. So and let's put that in there. So the condition is the player is an AI soldier, and we need to check that this current AI number is not higher than 29. So we'll check to make sure that it is less than 30. Let's do that. So we'll go with logic. And we've got less than. So we want to check that the current AI number, variable, put it on the right side, shall we? Current AI number is less than 30. And then we can drag and drop that condition in there. So on the player deployed, are they an AI soldier, and is the current AI number less than 30? We haven't dished them all out. And if they are, well, we can set this AI's value, this AI's number, to the number that is the current AI number. So let's do that as well. Got variable, set variable. This time it's a player. We want to set the AI number for the event player to be whatever the current AI number is. So now that we've done that, we need to increment this AI number so that it's ready for the next player. So that's quite simple. Let's go on to variables and let's get that. We want to set the current AI number to be whatever the current AI number is plus 1, and we've done that plenty of times before as well. So let's just drag that in there. Add the current AI number and add 1 to it. Excellent. Now we're nearly there actually in terms of making sure that these coordinates are in place. We've now made sure that we have given each AI player a unique number as they are deployed, and we can use that to know what the coordinate is that they should be plotted at. So the next thing for us to do is to make sure that the AI players are teleported to their position on the ring. So if you watched my last video, you will see that we use the teleport function to parachute drop players in, and we said you could move these AI players to wherever you wanted. Here we are going to use the teleport function again, but we are going to ensure that we repeatedly teleport them to the position that we want them to be, so that we make sure they stick to one place on the map, and you'll see how that works as we go. So we need to make sure we've got another rule, but this rule is going to be slightly different because it is going to be an ongoing rule and it is going to apply to the player. So each player is going to have this rule applied to them consistently, and we'll call this move AI to coord. All right. So this rule is just going to make sure that the player moves to the correct position. Now, in order to make an ongoing rule work, you need to set a condition, and that condition needs to be true in order to trigger the actions as we would normally expect. However, once the actions have finished and the rule is completed running, the ongoing rule will only trigger again if the condition has become false and then become true again. So we're going to use that to make sure that this condition will always trigger when the player is spawned in and alive. Then when the player dies, this rule is going to stop, but the condition will then become false. And when they redeploy again, the condition will become true again, and the actions will start running again. And this way we can ensure that while the AI player is alive, they will always be teleported back to the correct position. So we're just going to set that rule in place. Put a condition in there, and we're going to say these actions will run if the player is an AI player and the player is alive. So we need to get the logic section, and we need an and. So and, then we need to get the player's state. So get the player's state. So we need to check if the event player, we'll just grab that from there. Sorry, is an AI player. Actually, I've got that up there, haven't I? Duplicate. There we go. So if the player's state is that they're an AI soldier, and well, we need get player state again, and the player state will be is alive. So this rule will run if they are both an AI soldier and they are alive. And you can imagine that when they die, that statement will become false, and if we write this correctly, this rule will end, and then when they deploy again, it's going to start this rule all over again. So finally, we need to place them in the correct position, and we're going to use the teleport function to do this. So under player, you will find teleport. and we want to teleport, hold on, there we go, we want to teleport the event player. And then we need to give a vector to transport or teleport them to. Now, because this player, this AI player, already has an AI number, and that AI number relates to a vector that we have stored in the array, transporting them to the correct position is very easy. We just need to get the value out of the array. So in order to do that, we need to go to arrays, and then we need to go to value in array. Let's just have a look what that says. Help. It says returns the value found at a provided index. I'll just drop that in there. And then the array is, well, let's have a look, get variable. It is the ring coordinates, that's the array. And then we need the value at the index, well, whatever the player's AI number is. So we need another variable. We're going to get the variable, put it in the correct box. And we need the player variable for this particular player. We need their AI number. Okay. The last part of this teleport is just the yaw, or the angle that we want them positioned at. So I'm just going to duplicate that and pop that in there, and we'll just set them to 0. Right, so there's just a couple of other things that we want to do for this. When we've moved them, we want to spot them and keep them spotted. So this function first teleports them to the correct coordinates, then gameplay, and we need to spot the target. And of course we are going to spot, hold on, let me move that up, the event player. And we can state how long we want to spot them for. So in this case, we will spot them for 1 second. Doesn't really matter because we're going to keep doing this over and over again. And then last but not least, we need a wait function that we find under logic. And we are going to wait for 0.1 seconds. Now this is nearly there. There is just a slight flaw with this now that I've written it that I can see, and that is when the player, we've got an ongoing rule, if they are alive and they are an AI soldier, it's going to run this, but it's only going to move them once, and we need it to continuously move them. So in order to make that happen, we need to move this into a loop that will keep running while the player is alive. So let's put ourselves a little loop in there, control actions, while, and we've got a condition here. So get player state. So while this player is alive, teleport them, spot them, and wait. And that is the finished rule for moving them to the correct coordinates. Just going to pause it there for a moment, and I think that that is where we will end this particular video. I'm going to show you this particular code running on the screen. It's not the complete code that I showed you earlier because that is quite a lot more added onto this. But if you create this little program yourself, you will have a circle of AI players that are on your screen in the correct place. Now I should warn you that these AI players will be shooting at you. They won't be dumb, they won't be moving. There's no way of tracking where you are on the screen or anything like that, but this will give you a nice ring of players and demonstrates how to set out a ring or a circle on your screen using AI players. Okay, here we can see the map. You can see that the AI players are all positioned on the screen. The AI players do some crazy things often. They either disappear or they often randomly die. That could be because they get stuck in the scenery because we keep holding them back. But you can see that this works as a beginning kind of start to creating these ring objectives. If you've liked this video, and I'm sorry this has been quite a complicated video compared to my other ones, but unfortunately that's necessary. I would set this kind of at a more advanced level as a tutorial. But if you've learned anything from this video, if there is anything that you get out of that, if you want to ask me any questions about this, if there's something about this that you don't understand, please do feel free to put a comment in the comment section, and I will try and get back to you if I am able. This is the first part of this video. I'm going to play around with this a little bit more and give you a little bit more in my next video. If you've liked it, please do consider subscribing. I really do appreciate it. Clicking the like button is fantastic, and finally, if you can share it with others, be eternally grateful. Okay, so for this week, that's it all over. Hopefully it's not been too difficult for you. Like I say, coming soon, part 2 of this video where we add a little bit more functionality to it now that we have got our ring in place. Thanks for watching, and until next time, see you later.